not really a magic trick. It's an heirloom. Belonged to my grandfather. My grandfather hated banks. He really did. I originally thought this animosity arose as a result of the Great Depression, but I eventually discovered that this ill will was well established long before that financial calamity arose. You see, my grandfather was a magician who, for a short time, toured the vaudeville circuits both domestically and abroad. And banks, with their bankers' hours, were ill-suited to the lifestyle of an itinerant performer. Because you see, just as my grandfather's day was starting, the bank's day was winding down. And so getting to the bank to transact one's financial transactions was often a difficult endeavor indeed. Now, this wasn't so much of an issue here in the States, but abroad it was a major calamity, because this was decades before the unification of Europe and the standardization of their currency. And so when my grandfather toured, every country had its own different and unique currency, and you needed to exchange them as you traveled from locale to locale. And this was difficult to do if the banks were always closed. And so my grandfather's situation was alleviated when he discovered this device, the Eason exchange engine. And I was very pleased to discover it in his possessions when he passed on. And even more pleased to discover that the company was still in business, because it requires a set of keys to operate. And now that the EU is in place, I figured these weren't going to be accessible, but they are. You can get brand new keys, and I did, but let me just show you how it works. You take one of the keys, say for the European Union, you stick it in there, give it a turn just like so. Take out a single American $1 bill, set the dial on the front of the device to the denomination you're working with, in this case a $1 bill. Take that one and feed it right through the machine, and you will note that it is working absolutely perfectly, because the $1 bill comes out unchanged. This is because there are no paper dollar bills in any country, anywhere in the world, except the United States. Everyone long ago went to coins. And so the smallest denomination you can generally find is a 5. So let's set the dial up to 5, just like so. We will now feed in our $5 bill, and it comes out perfectly exchanged on the other side as now that's not quite right. That's a euro in the middle of an American $5 bill. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have the key perfectly aligned. Has to be perfectly aligned. The machine's a little old and twinky, so if we take this hybrid bill and feed it through, it should work perfectly and come right out the other side as a €5 note. Now you're probably curious what would happen if you took that American $1 bill and fed it through at this point in the production. Well, because it's knowing that it can't quite exchange it straight across, it shrinks it down into a little tiny bill. So, set it up to, say, $20, take out the American $20 bill, and it will convert it into a €20 note, just like so. All right. Obviously not applause. No, don't. I don't need your pity. I don't need your pity. Now this is the neat part. If you set that back to 10, You take the 20 euro, make sure that that's still adjusted there, the euro. You just feed that through, and it works kind of like an ATM, and it comes out with 2 10 euro notes. It makes change. Now, not all of Europe is on the euro. For instance, Great Britain. Great Britain is still on the pound. So if we put the Great Britain pound in there, take a 10 euro note, it will convert it into a 10 pound note. Just, no, that's Canadian. Oh, I'm sorry, I have that the wrong way around. Turn that the other way, that was on the Canada side. There it is, the British pound sterling. Take that Canadian note through, and it will print it right out as a 10 pound note. Now this is neat. If you take a 10 euro note and a $10 bill, feed that through. Well, actually, let's set that up to a 20, otherwise a horrible mistake. Feed both those through. It will come right out the other side as a 20 pound note. Now, as I said, these are the new keys. You don't want to use the old keys because the machine gets confused. For instance, this one had an old key, had Swiss francs on it. If you put Swiss francs in there, give it a turn, set this back down to 10, feed the 20 pound note through. It doesn't really know what to do with that, so it actually makes them into traveler's checks. Francs, actually 10 franc traveler's checks. Now, if you move this back down to 1, this is neat. Just discovered this completely by accident. Shift this around to Japan, take a dollar bill, feed that through. It does origami. kind of a strange thing. Now, of course, you're thinking, what would happen if you just took a piece of paper and you wrote 100 euro on it? Well, if you just feed that through, the machine has safety measures, and it just goes right through, not only because it knows it's trying to cheat you, but you've got the whole thing set up wrong. You still got it on Japanese. You want to exchange it to a viable currency, say American. Move that dial up to 100, take that 100 euro, feed it right through, and it will come out the other side as Mickey Mouse money. Because the machine knows. To get real money out, you got to put real money through. $100 bill, the traditional big finish for the Eason exchange engine routine. Just feed that through, and you get out the other side a brand new $100 bill. That is, ladies and gentlemen, the marvel of the Eason exchange engine, perhaps one of the most strange and most curious of devices. Don't leave home without one. Thank you. This concludes my performance for the evening. I trust you all have a good Thanksgiving with friends and family. Thank you very much.